Okay, it's 5 o'clock and I'm going to call this meeting to order of Point Order Village Council. It's September the 24th, 2024. First of all, I'll have the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Anyone with pecuniary interest?
I have no one.
None.
From the zoning amendment, I live within the notification area.
And we have a delegation tonight. I will invite Isabella. And I don't have the second. Oh, sorry.
Not just Isabel, I think she has. there's
Oh,
someone with
okay,
her.
sorry. And come up to the bar. This is what we call the bar. Not your regular one, but I was looking at you all. Okay, if you're okay with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about your presentation, and you have a video. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Isabella Pires. I am Brazilian, and with my partner, Rachel, we opened the Bridge Patisserie and Cafe around 2 months ago. And we chose that location because we always believe on the potential of that area, Michigan Avenue, and of course, Point Edward, with a different environment that we felt so good there. And we could also recognize European atmosphere too.
Mhm.
And because of that, we started to think about a different kind of event in that area, that people could have some time together, especially during the cold time that you cannot see people on the streets. So everybody's isolated in their houses. I'm sorry about my English. My mother tongue is.
No, it's wonderful.
Okay, so this is our suggestion, Fireside in Point. Next, please. Bringing warmth to the heart of the community. This is a great.
Brightly shining July, friendship moving, fresh water coming down from Canada, all around the shoreline, you can hear them sing. Sweet mother Michigan, Father, sweet finger, coming down from Mackinac, Sault Ste. Marie, the water hit round, come down to the Rio, up to Ontario, from all that sea. I was sleeping on ships that go beyond your road, sailing out Thunder Bay and bound above the road. Fishermen just like their fathers were before, sail there in the sea on my time road. Sweet mama, Michigan, father comes back to you, come down from Mackinac, Sault Ste. Marie. From the land to the all to Ontario, run all and see. Oh, takes the sails, then remain singing and then singing of the bells were drowned of the dream. Now, it's a water.
So, for sure, everybody knows how diverse is the culture here in Canada. But in my opinion, the best thing is to give value to the Canadian culture. And being together and having maple and coffee and everything, but with families, with friends, in a cozy place. The next one, please. The Bridge Patisserie Café, we are inspired by French charm, but we are in Canada and we are in close to iconic Blue Water Bridge. So it's the best place, in our opinion, to have this kind of events that could be monthly or, I don't know, maybe during the Christmas time, bi-weekly. But we could discuss how it could work better. Next one, please. We have to remember the history. The Blue Water represent in the past an important area to connect cities and also communities, and we have that right now. We are close to United States, so it's a good place to have all of that. The concept of this fireside point should be fire pits, Canadian chairs, wood places with food vendors, craft vendors too. And each edition we have a theme. Like we do not have time right now to October, but should be fall edition. And we have the themes and the possible actions that we could have in each one. It's just examples here. I will not go through all of that, but I think that we could consider like that October and then November. You can go. December as Christmas, January and February too. So we could have that from October or November through February. We have also plan financial viability and fundraising suggestions to work with sponsors, and we also have the contact with Chamber of Commerce. Because of that, Robin is here. They could help us in many ways, and also the marketing and evolve the community too, because this is an idea to gather people. For sure, for our business, it's a small business, it's better to just deliver food. For sure, the results, the financial one would be bigger. But we would like to add something different, to gather people, to have something different. Families, they don't have a place to go and to enjoy different time around here. And why this project is a pioneer in Point Edward. It brings an European style outdoor market concept to Point Edward, taking advantage of Canada's milder climate compared to the rest of the country. It pioneers a recurring, community-oriented seasonal event that fills a gap in the local entertainment calendar, supporting economic growth and social engagement during the quieter months. Thank you for your attention. I just would like to listen just the way that she could help with.
Sure.
My hand council, I'm Robin Cook from the Chamber of Commerce. Isabella and her partner are huge chamber champions. And in kind, we would support them by putting up the 5 million liability that no doubt will be required for something like this. We will help with footprints from our other events that we posted and kind of help with any kind of administration with the town. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Robin. Any questions, from council?
Just one.
Deputy Mayor Grimes?
Is this something you would propose for this year? I know we're right into fall already, believe it or not, but is this
Yeah.
something now or are you looking next year?
To be honest, I would like to achieve that at least to the Christmas time.
Okay.
I know that we don't have much time, but we renovated and did all the work there in the bridge in 2 months.
Mhm.
So I know that we can organize and do.
Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Sorry?
Where there's a will, there's a way. That's,
The same.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry. Here we go.
Yeah. And yeah, for this year, we do have a Christmas in the Village event
Mhm,
and that maybe there can be some partnering for the first year
mhm.
and at least test the water. So I applaud you for bringing this forward. It's a great initiative and it's nice to see some grassroots. We're seeing more and more of that where ideas are formulated at the ground level, which is really nice to see. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I was thinking, yeah, November might be too early, but we have Christmas in the Village. That's, planning's underway for that. But then perhaps in January, and we do have some funds available through our mat tax that we put away for kind of these kind of events. So we can certainly look at the budget that we have and utilize some of, that's what those funds are there for. So these kind of tourist events and business events. So, I wonder if would we take it to committee for some planning or any suggestions?
That's what I was gonna ask. What's our, I just don't want to leave without an action plan
Yeah.
where we're going to go with this.
Yeah, I think we probably set up, maybe talk with Shelley and the
Yeah.
events committee with the chamber as well. And
Right.
I also wonder about talking with Sarnia Lambton Economic or Tourism Sarnia Lambton, sorry,
Well,
and seeing if they would partner in as well.
I'm on the board of Sarnia Lambton Tourism, so I certainly can raise that up with them.
So I think that's probably what we should do is, waiting another 2 weeks for a committee meeting puts things off.
I just wanted to get Shelley involved.
Yeah.
So Shelley is our event coordinator. She's organizing Christmas in the Village, and we get her involved in what the idea is. And
We talked
you
with
talk to
her
her, perfect.
and we said that anyway, we are going to
Okay.
be with you during this
Okay,
Christmas event.
okay,
Okay?
all right. Well, we're certainly planning to get together and
Okay.
do some more digging into your idea, and we applaud you. You just opened on June 20th, I think it was.
Yeah.
And already coming with these great ideas, so I think it's wonderful.
I think we should set up something, a meeting, with
Yeah.
Chamber Tourism and
Yeah.
the Village and anyone else that's interested beside yourself as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The next item is public meeting, and the first item is zoning bylaw amendment 207 Victoria.
There, okay. So the application and the notice were circulated for council's review. And then we have the planner's report to go through. I think we should probably invite Jared to come forward and go through his presentation.
You can share it.
Thank you, Mayor Hand, members of council, members of the public. My name is Jared Crofton. I'm a planner for the county of Lambton, as well as help out with planning services with Village of Edward as well. So today is a presentation on a zoning bylaw amendment for 207 Victoria Avenue. The owner today is with us. He's David Gold. He owns the property on 207 Victoria Avenue. So currently that property is a duplex. It's running as a duplex. There are 2 units that are being run in that property. So today he is proposing a zoning bylaw amendment to change the zone from residential 1 R1 to residential 1 R1.1 to permit up to 3 units on his property on the existing building. And I just want to make a clear note today that there's no addition being proposed to the actual physical structure of the building. It's just for a change of use to operate a 3rd unit. Go to the next slide. So the currently this property is zoned residential 1 R1. So the zone does not permit triplexes. It only currently permits singles and semis. So that is where the zoning bylaw amendment was needed today to allow the change of use. So planning is coming forward and proposing the residential 1.1 zone R1.1 to permit the triplexes, and that will be a site-specific zone that applies only to this property, not to all properties in R1. So when visiting the site, this is a picture that shows the single detached dwelling on 207 Victoria. This is the proposed 3rd unit. So the door with the brown bricks right there is the entrance to the 3rd unit. This shows the neighboring property right next door to the east. This is the neighboring property to the west. And this shows the garage that's located in the back of the property, and those would be where 2 parking spots would go for the, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, David. This would go for the upstairs unit and the proposed basement unit. Those 2.
Yes.
This is just inside the dwelling. I just took some pictures. Jim, you can just go through those of the main hallway, the main kitchen area, bathroom, main living area, as well as the bedroom right there. This is an aerial photo that's taken of 207 Victoria. So all those properties in the yellow there are residential zones. So this one's specifically zoned R1. As you can see, and it's highlighted in the blue right there on the south part of Victoria Avenue. And this is the proposed ZBA for 207 Victoria, and it's highlighted R1.1, which is the proposed zoning if it were to be approved by council today. Upon recommendation, planning staff found that that zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with all planning policy, including the Planning Act, the provincial policy statement, the county of Lambton official plan, the Village of Point Edward official plan, and the Village of Point Edward zoning bylaw. So this property is in a designated growth area, which is designated by the county of Lambton, that is adjacent to other built-up areas that contain residential lot with low-density housing. So to define low-density housing, we're talking about singles, semis, duplexes, and triplexes. So any buildings that are condos or apartment buildings are not low-density housing. So this fits in with the low-density housing definition, which allows for the efficient use of land, infrastructure, and public use facilities. There have been, upon some comments made by neighbors, the proposed use 3rd unit will add additional traffic to the neighborhood just because you're allowing, and you're adding an extra unit, so you're adding another parking spot there. So there's going to be more people coming in. However, upon visiting the site, there is adequate driveway space on the property to accommodate 3 vehicles, 1 at the front of the property, and then 2 at the back. And there should not be any overflow parking on the streets. Our zoning bylaw for any low-density residential units permits 1 parking spot per unit. So he has 3. That means there's 3 parking spots allowed. 3 people, 3 parking spots. There should be no people parking on the streets. The street is not a designated parking spot, so I had that confirmed with the owner when looking at this bylaw. The owner also has a 3rd separate entrance for the unit, which should limit any privacy concerns on the property. Every one of the tenants will have their own separate entrance, and the owner can confirm that in more detail if there's any additional concerns. Upon recommendation, planning staff recommends that Point Edward Council adopt bylaw. It's not 14 of 2024, it's 22 of 2024. To amend the Village of Point Edward zoning bylaw, 25 of 2012, to rezone the subject site to the residential 1.1 R 1.1 zone, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner receives written approval from Point Edward Fire Department to allow the uses of the 3 units on the property. And that upon approval from council, if approved, that the owner applies for a change of use permit, which may require additional upgrades to the actual unit inside. Thank you very much, and if anyone has additional questions related to planning, I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody? Any?
I have one.
Deputy Mayor Glass?
In the pictures that you show of the basement, it looked as built as an apartment. Is it set up as an apartment now?
That
I
wasn't the basement.
Oh, that wasn't the basement that you
That-
showed?
That was the basement.
Yeah,
That was-
yeah.
That
So
was the basement?
Yeah.
I used to own that.
I know, I've been in it.
let's let Jared answer then.
through the mayor. Upon doing a site visit, the owner had let me into the basement unit to take pictures of what was in that property, right now. And he could further explain what he was gonna be used as.
Right now, it has its own entrance, washer and dryer, washroom, a large bedroom, gas stove, dishwasher, pretty much everything you would need. At the present, right now, if I'm in town and I wanna work at the house, I can go downstairs, use the washroom, I can sit down and watch TV and relax. And there's a fridge right there. I don't have much beer left, but I've still got water in the fridge. And it's very convenient for me that way. That was one of the reasons I actually bought it.
So I do a follow-up question. I'll do it through you to Jared, but the owner may have to answer. Was the unit ever used? Has it ever been rented out to a tenant?
I believe before I got there, it was rented out to a tenant. And last year, I was heading to Florida. And before I got out of town, a friend of mine called. Said that his sister was going through a rather nasty divorce. And needed a place basically to hide for a couple of weeks. I really didn't think it was an issue. She has a little car, there was only 2 cars there, so I let her stay at my place for a couple of weeks. And that caused a little bit of a commotion. Because somebody wasn't comfortable with her living there or staying there. So the police came over and the fire department came over and they went through the whole place. The fire department said, no, it's quite secure and safe and she's fine in here for now. And just left it at that. She since then has obviously moved on and nobody stays there really, unless it's me and I want to hide from my wife or something to do some work.
So
But
the,
even I don't really sleep there.
so through the mayor again. So the goal here, Jared, is we're trying to turn this existing, what looks like a rental unit, make it conforming, right? By modifying the bylaw? Is that what-
Yes, you're modifying the bylaw so he can obtain a change of use permit and legally rent out the triplex to tenants. Any situations that have happened in the past did not conform to zoning, and that's why building and fire were involved. And I can't speak to what happened in the past. We're dealing with him trying to get to permit a legal triplex. So if he were to rent it to his tenants, he's able to if council approves it. Right now, he's not legally allowed to rent out to 3 tenants. He can rent out to 2, but he cannot rent out to 3.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
I have a question.
All right, now,
Typically, we allow councilors to ask questions first and then public, okay?
Yeah, so I know it was said that there is enough parking space for 3 vehicles, 1 per unit. When I went and looked, it didn't look like there would be able to be parking for 3 vehicles where they would all be able to get out if the others were parked. Was that something that was looked at, or just how many could fit in the driveway?
So through the mayor, I went upon the site, I went over with the owner. And the owner can confirm this with me as well. There's 1 parking space available at the front for the person in the main unit.
Mhm.
And then there's that laneway that goes back to the back where that garage is at the back.
Mhm.
And there's 2 parking spots. From looking at it, and I had fire and building go over, I got confirmation that there would be no issues with people not being able to get in and out. That laneway will be clear. There's 2 parking spots right there, no one's gonna be blocked in. So if someone had to get out, they wouldn't have to get the person to move their vehicle. To get out. No problem.
Council Burgess?
Several questions more for the owner. How many people are living in that dwelling right now altogether?
There's one lady upstairs and, in the main floor, there's a lady and her son. The upper level, there's one lady.
And I have another follow, just following up on Councillor Doctor's comment. So a couple moves in with 2 vehicles, what would be the remedy for that? As far as, because I see what you're saying, 2 cars at the back, one backs out at a time, lanes open. But if a 4th car is part of the rental, how do we move forward?
So through the mayor, to legally ensure that the owner follows the zoning and the parking spots that are permitted. He's gonna have to look at which tenants he's allowing, because you cannot have 2 cars. A car parking on the street, if there were 2 vehicles, for example. He would have to be careful on who he allows to rent there, because you can't have multiple vehicles because the street is not a legal parking spot according to our zoning bylaw. So yes, we're allowing the 3rd unit, but that doesn't mean you can have a limited amount of cars there, because he doesn't have the driveway space for multiple vehicles. So upon renting, he would just have to understand that there's only 1 spot available when he's choosing who to rent it out to.
Typically, if the lease states you got 1 spot or whatever, but it's in the lease on what you're allowed.
Okay.
Normally. Questions from the public?
Do we have 2 people who want to speak?
Sorry.
Where do we go?
We allow questions to the planner's report and then presentations and then questions again.
Lady at the back without the seat.
My question was regarding the fact that you had said that there had been fire. Remediated, so there is additional exit beyond the door that's numbered.
Yeah. Excuse me, if you wish to speak, you need to state your name and your address, please. That's just, it's protocol. Thank you.
It's our first time.
I know, I should have told you that.
Not this-
You don't have to stand if you just tell us who you are.
My name is Roxanne Pine, I live at 203 Michigan. And my question is, you had said that the fire department had been through. And my question is regarding egress, is there an additional exit in case of a fire beyond the door? Brick wall.
So through the mayor, fire had not been through to deal with this current application. For previous ones, they have been, and the owner can elaborate on that a little bit more, because he was there during that situation. Now, fire told me when I was on site that they cannot go through the building until change of use permit has been approved. And they will go in and look at the property. That's not under planning jurisdiction, so I have no further comment on that. If you would like the owner to elaborate on the exits, he can. But fire will have to comment on that when the time comes.
Any other questions?
Like Bouchard, a little across the street from there. I used to be on the fire department. I used to live there. And you only have one door for egress and you've got small windows to get out of there. That's not the standard these days. You have to be able to get out. And this gentleman does not live in our village. He has no anything to do with our neighborhood or anything else. We just see him, he comes and he goes. What's he gonna put into our neighborhood? I mean, like, we don't agree with this. And the parking has always been an issue. Regardless, you've got two spots side by side. If you put a third car or a fourth car back there, you're gonna be congested. And I would like to know when the fire department is gonna go in there and take a look.
Jared had just explained that. Could you say it again, please,
Yep.
Jared?
So through the mayor, if this were to be approved by council, the owner would have to get a change of use permit to allow the triplex. And then fire department can legally go in and look at the site and see any issues. I had the fire department go out with me to the site to see if they saw any issues immediately. They didn't have anything that they flagged that I needed to comment on or share any concerns about. So at this time, I cannot give any comments on that because that's up to fire to explain whether that will be a safe enough unit to operate or not. Thank you.
So if I may, the process, the planning is looked after at this level. Then the building department actually ensures that the unit would conform to the building code.
Okay.
So if their windows aren't big enough, it would be up to the building department to make that determination, tell them if they need to make any changes. And then the fire department enforces it after the final inspection from the building department, then the fire department gets involved.
Any other questions before I bring it up to our speakers? Okay. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate your time and explanation. First speaker is Lori Kirkman. How about, could Lori come up to this table?
Well,
I can give her the mic
Okay.
and come around,
Okay,
and then I can answer
sure.
from where I am.
Thanks,
if you have
Jerry.
any additional questions. For me, look, I mean, whether it's supposed to.
Mayor Council.
Yeah.
And, CEO, Mr. Burns. For those of you who are not aware, my name is Lori Kirkland, and I currently live with my husband and daughters at 205 Victoria Ave. I'm sorry I'm reading, but I'm very anxious. I have various concerns regarding the application, which was being discussed today. My first concern is with the current dwellings located within the block of our home. There is no shortage of rental properties in our immediate block. The suggestion of another rental property would lead one to believe that there is a need. However, within our block fronting Victoria, Monk, Michigan, and St. Clair, we have a duplex currently located at 207 Victoria and an apartment building. In addition to these two locations, we have a rental property that's in disrepair and non-compliant with current building standards in the village. The apartment on Michigan Ave has 11 units available for rent. The home beside us has 2 units available for rent. There's no need to inundate this particular block with another location to rent. As per the current Ministry of Housing guidelines in Ontario, buildings will need to be up to the Ontario Building Code standards. Your building needs to meet fire code structures to ensure the basements is safe to exit in an emergency. The current residence does not have egress windows, which is considered a necessity in Ontario for basement apartments. There's also a requirement for ventilation. It's required for the bathroom and kitchen of your second unit. This can be provided by a ceiling or exhaust fan, which would be difficult to achieve given the current limited outdoor clearances. The basement windows are located at ground level in the driveway, leading to the exposure of idling cars and water damage. Also noted on the Planning Act for the Ontario government, proper fire separation between the basement and the upper floors is critical. This includes fire resistant materials for walls and ceilings, as well as smoke detectors and possibly sprinklers. There is only one way in and one way out. The access to the main floor location has been boarded up by the current landlord. The tenants do not have access to the electrical panel or furnace, as it's all locked in the basement area, with the only one having access to it is Mr. Gould. There have been times when the power has gone out or the electrical is tripped, and the tenants must wait until the landlord is able to come and manage the electrical panel. It also has been rumored by the main floor tenant that Mr. Gould has shut the power off on their floor this summer as the tenant had their window open. He thought that they had the air conditioner running and he did not approve of it. So he took it upon himself to turn the power off to avoid the air conditioning running. Completely illegal. Mr. Gould's attempt to update and maintain the property are limited at best as per my discussion with current and past tenants of the property. The exterior of the home, including grass cutting in the summer and snow removal in the winter, has been left to the neighbors. Rob, the current neighbor to the east, maintains the front yard in order to keep his home appearance up, and it's rarely maintained by the current tenants or landlord. All of the neighbors, including myself, also help the tenants in the winter during storms get out of their driveway, as Mr. Gould has all of the equipment locked up in the garage, which is not accessible to the tenants. To this point, if there are additional vehicles in the driveway, there is no space for snow placement during the winter months. There is less than 3 feet on the side of the driveway at 207 and our property line. Judging from what, okay, I'll keep going. As for the last point of requiring professional installation and development of the property, I would also like to speak to the current building owners, Mr. Gould and Ms. Emsley, who purchased the property December 30th, 2020. In April 2021, we had a tenant who had a major vehicle fire. The tenant did not call the fire department. Our family called the fire department as the tenant took off across the street. August 2021, a hole was cut in the back door to gain access to the dwelling because Mr. Gould had been locked out by the tenants. August 17th, 2021, squatters had entered the basement and were living there. The police had to attend numerous times to have them removed. Mr. Gould also had a tenant living in the basement for over 9 months, not the current 2 weeks that he had informed you previously. Until the spring of 2024, knowing that this dwelling is only a duplex and there are already 2 locations rented. This brings me to the character of the current property owner. The current landlord has had 1 tenant taken to the landlord-tenant board and won his argument against Mr. Gould. One of the concerns that were provided to the landlord-tenant board by Mr. Paul Greck, the previous tenant, was the uncompleted work on the interior of the apartment, including exposed wires and unfinished trim throughout the apartment. The additional concern with Mr. Greck, when Mr. Greck lived there, was that Mr. Gould had moved an additional tenant into the basement, knowing that the property was not zoned as a triplex. This led to a multitude of problems, including parking and the exposure of other tenants to major inconvenience, sharing the yard, garbage, property maintenance. Mr. Greck did receive a monetary settlement from Mr. Gould for the terms of his lease while at the landlord-tenant board. The current tenant in the upper apartment has had to seek legal advice due to the harassment that she has received from Mr. Gould after the passing of her longtime partner. Ms. Tremblay lost her partner, Mr. Louis St. Pierre, on June 2nd, 2024 of this year. Louis suffered a debilitating stroke in the last few days of May, and so he was transferred to London, where he lived a few days before passing. During that period of time, Ms. Tremblay stayed by his side until his death on June 2nd. Mr. Gould is now attempting to evict Ms. Gould. On June 13th, he requested to meet Ms. Tremblay, and at that time showed her the basement apartment. During this time, he tried to intimidate Susan by telling her that he has a lawyer and that she should consider moving into the basement apartment so he would be able to get more rent for the upper unit. On June 20th, Susan received a text message stating that she must vacate the premises within 30 days. During her time of grief, she has had to acquire legal representation in order to prevent further harassment. When this dwelling was sold in 2003, the landlord lived in the dwelling for a period of time. During that time the landlord lived there, we had very few incidents that caused concern. After the property was no longer lived in by the owner, we have endured many incidents which have brought concern. We've had squatters, drug dealers, domestic violence, fires, overdoses, which have caused a great deal of stress to our household and to the other neighbors. I work in the area of mental health and addiction, and I understand the need of the population seeking affordable housing. I in no way feel that this location will be amended for the use of affordable housing. And the request of rezoning is out of greed, not the intended changes to the Ontario and federal government to incorporate housing. But the application has been requested to make the affordability of the property accessible to the current property owners at the expense of the neighbors and those who have lived and raised their families in our fine neighborhood. By bringing an additional unit to the property, I believe that the property value of our homes will decrease, given the close proximity to our home and unpredictability of tenants. I ask the council and mayor to consider the integrity of our neighborhood over the greed of a landlord. My other concern that was raised while this presentation has been happening is that there has been no consideration given to the effect that this will have either on the tenants. Any of the information that you're receiving is from Mr. Gould. When he's telling the board, Jared that was here, that there is one parking space for each. That is not what's currently on the lease agreements. The lease agreements are currently stating that the lady that is living in the main floor has access to that with 2 parking spots. If we are looking at this, I think it only fair that you have all of the documentation from lease agreements that are currently in place to people that have had to change their entire lifestyle because of the changes since 2020. On that note, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate your time, your information. Number 2, Rob Overholtz. Sorry. I just shortened it.
I'm Robert Overholzer. I own, my wife and I live in property right next door on 209 Victoria. And my comments, I'm opposed. I'm going on record as opposed. My letter states why. And all I'm doing is basically repeating what I wrote. It'd be better. Anyways, I am concerned property value. Sure, being a triplex all of a sudden now makes it worth more money, I would imagine. I'm not a realtor and I don't study that kind of thing, so I'm not well versed in it. But if you live next door and try to sell your place, think of your own homes. And if you've got a triplex all of a sudden right next to you, and parking is definitely going to be an issue. I don't care what you say. I used to own that property as well, so I know a bit about it. And it is tight. You can get 2 cars up. In fact, I did when I owned the property. There was no parking in front of the house. Somehow along the way, this council, or pardon me, a prior council changed the bylaws to stop. You used to not be able to park in front of your house unless it was an attached garage. Going back a ways. If you go back and check, you'll find it somewhere because I've read it once before. And then in 2022, they changed it to 12 meters for 30 meters of frontage or something. I have it there. Anyways, instead of rambling on, I don't like the idea of the parking for sure, because there's already 3 cars in there. They already struggle for parking. Neighbor across the road lets them utilize his parking lot during the winter months, so they can not. That's instead of being nice to neighbors. You can use it for the winter because they literally have no place to park, especially if you do happen to get any snow. I mean, somebody's got to get it out of there so you can get 2 cars in that spot. Otherwise, there's no place to throw it. So that's my concern. Those are my 2 major concerns. Are those I might throw in, which was partially irrelevant, is and Lori said codes, and that's I don't understand why we don't check into whether codes are being met before this meeting, before it goes before council. Now, what you're not, I mean, if you pass it here, what happens? Now it throws it back at him. Now he can have the triplex. You said it's okay, but he has to go through he has to bring the facility and to meet all these codes. I think that's being reactive as opposed to proactive. And that's all I got to say. Anything else was in my letter.
Okay, have a third speaker, Roger Galloway.
My name is Roger Galloway. I live at 213 Victoria. I know that many or most of you have been recently to the AMO conference, and you heard a lot about housing. We're being told that there's a housing emergency in the province. There's a shortage of housing. And so I was quite intrigued when I read the planner's report about the provincial policy statement, which figured prominently in his approval and recommendation, along with the clerk's recommendation, that you should receive and approve this. I'm fascinated by that because you jumped ahead to it, or at least the planner and the clerk have jumped ahead to approving it without hearing from the public. It's an interesting concept that the public comes last, particularly the neighborhood. When I received this, when I received this notice, I called a couple of people I know, a couple hundred miles down the 401. One is a planner I know. He doesn't work in municipal work necessarily, but he's with an engineering firm. And he doesn't know my neighborhood, but he did say, Roger, they're going to approve it. And he laughed. And he said, they're going to approve it because the provincial policy statement says you've got to increase density. All right. So we're into this new era of densification. I called another fellow who happens to be a mayor of a municipality, a larger one. And he laughed and said, what the hell? They're going to approve it. And it's all pre-arranged. It's all a fait accompli. It's a fait accompli because the provincial policy statement says we need more housing and you must follow this. So the end result is we're here this evening to look at this, and we've heard from a planner, we've heard from the two of the neighbors, and I'm the third. Actually, sorry, Mike, I'm the fourth. And here's the thing. You're looking at making a change that is a change for all time. It's not a temporary phenomenon. You're going to plunk into the midst of a block that has been moving, as I pointed out in my letter, from duplexes to single-family dwellings, and this was the last one. We understand it's a legal presence, but why would we want to add a third unit? Why would we want to complicate it? This is a block which has matured with time, and this is quite evident. We have a tendency to stay in place, don't we? So if you go down the block, people have been there for a long time. I'm one of them, but everybody else is as well. And now you're putting in an unknown quantity into it's a third apartment, a triplex. Now I've heard the suggestions about the parking. I find that amusing because having lived there as long as I have, the last duplex, the last two couples who lived in there, it's in recent years, there were 4 cars, right? So how are you going to get 3? It's a mystery to me. It's a mystery, and I think it's a mystery to the neighbors. So what we're saying to you is this: don't roll the dice and jeopardize the neighborhood. It's a stable neighborhood. We've been there. We're not moving. We don't want to move. But if you're going to put something in there, there are not adequate guarantees to represent the integrity of the neighborhood. And this is what is important to us. So go ahead and reject it. It's your job now, and this is why we're having this hearing. It's your job now to listen to the people. It's not listen to the planners. It's not listening to the clerk.
yes, it complies with all the rules and regulations and numbers, and I've read those. But it's about people. And it's about a neighborhood that is stable. And why do you want to roll the dice to make it unstable? Final word. If you're gonna do this, what is to prevent someone else, maybe down Maud Street, there's a couple houses down there that are quite, oh, they could be nice duplexes, right? Or why couldn't they apply for a spot zoning? This could be a contagion, I don't know, all right? But you're rolling the dice. And it's for all time. And we're saying to you as the people you represent, us, we're saying to you, no, don't do it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
I have a question of the-
Deputy Mayor Grimes has a question for Jared.
You can just, right here.
You Talk loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if this third unit were to be approved and brought up to the current building code, right, for egress and fire safety, would that trigger the entire building to be brought to code, or is it just on that one unit?
I would, through the mayor, I would have to confirm with my manager of building services, Corinne Nada, on that question. I believe that the whole building would have to be brought up to code. And they would go in and look at it as an entire building. But I can confirm with that later.
Okay, so that could be potentially cost prohibitive if the whole building had to be brought to today's code. Safe to say?
Possibly, but I can't confirm that with you at this moment.
And then I do share the neighbors' concerns about on-street parking. People are lazy. They're gonna park as close as they can and as easy as they can to get in and out of their residence. To shuffle the car in the winter out to the backyard and then come in, I think will be an issue. People will just park out front a lot, in which Victoria Street's already a very narrow street, and there are complaints about traffic on there, so I see that as a legitimate concerns. That's all my questions.
I have one question.
Councilor Burgess.
Minor. If we were to reject this, is there an appeal process for the landowner?
So through the mayor, if council were to reject this today, the applicant would have the right to a 20-day appeal period where they can decide whether to appeal your decision to the bylaw. And then it would go before the Ontario Land Tribunal. And the applicant would be going against your decision. They wouldn't go against my recommendations, it would be your decision. So it's different depending on what the appeal is. Sometimes an appeal is made if I recommend something and you go with it. That could be appealed by another ministry, which has happened before, but in this case, they would be appealing your decision and not my recommendation.
Okay.
And we can get into the specifics of that were to happen at the time. But he does have the right to the 20-day appeal if you were to reject it.
Okay, so on the other end of that, if it was approved, would the neighborhood have an appeal process to go against that decision? Is the appeal a two-way street?
Through the mayor, I believe through the Planning Act that it has taken away the right to appeal
No,
through the public, but I can confirm that with you at the time as well.
I just think now's the time. That's
Lori.
So, Lori,
We do have. Here. We do have the right to appeal. Sorry. Just trying to figure out the word, too. Because it would definitely be an option that would be looked at. The Planning Act ensures that all local citizens to be notified about planning proposals to give their views, and we're permitted to appeal decisions to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or in some cases, the Municipal Local Appeal Board. That's on the Ministry of Ontario website.
If you're not happy with the council's decision on planning issues in some instances, you may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal for a public hearing. There is a significant fee, but I think the fee for the neighbors would outweigh the desire to have our home values and privacy and everything else diminished.
Question.
Not sure if this is for the planner or the owner. It was mentioned that the current tenant agreements may have more than one parking space written in them. I would, if that were the case, then there would need to be a guarantee for more than 3 parking spaces. Would there not? Because then, if a third car came in or an additional car for the third unit, then there would be more than 3 vehicles that would need slots. And if it was in their agreement, then that would create a need for 4 or more spots.
Through the mayor, I haven't dealt with many of these leases before for these type of apart units, but if they were to have a 4th, they would have to have the adequate driveway space too. And that would be not meeting the zoning at that time. So I don't have that legal paperwork in front of me, so I can't comment on that further.
Can I get a question in here though?
Rob?
Just, I mentioned I owned the property before, and in 2003, I sold it. At that time, it had a front lawn, pretty much all the way over to the narrow driveway that led back to the 2 parking spots, right? And, the next owner, took out half or a third of the front lawn, paved it, and made a parking spot. So that's the 3rd parking spot right there. My question is, going forward, what's to stop the existing landlord? Is there some bylaw that says he can't expand that driveway even further? So now I've got a driveway for a neighbor. Front lawn. I said, I mean, what's the limitation there? I've got a cop, it doesn't matter, 30 meters of frontage, 12 meters of width for driveway, so there's room. Am I gonna face that down the road? That's my question to you.
Yeah, so through the mayor, there are width provisions that the owner would have to follow if he were to add a 4th parking spot. I was not made aware of any lease or any situation where somebody had permission to have 2 parking spots for their 1 unit. Per our current bylaw, it's 1 parking spot per the 3 units. So if that were to happen, I would have to check the width provisions as well to make sure he's in compliance with that. Right now, I'm just dealing with the 1 per 3. Unless I'm told otherwise that he has to comply to something else.
Okay, so down the road, if he chooses to, he could possibly extend that driveway across the front of that.
If he met zoning.
Yeah.
But I would have to check it. Right now, I'm just dealing with what's existing on the property right now. And that's all I can comment on at the moment.
So, yeah, there's a couple things that the width of the entrance is one thing. The space for driving or for parking is another. I would think, and ask Jared to correct me if I'm wrong, but there are provisions for green space
Yes,
on property. So you can't, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't just cover up the grass because there's a requirement to have a certain percentage. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there's a requirement to have a percentage of your lot be green space. So you're not supposed to just go in and cover your grass with parking lot. So there is that protection. That's not gonna stop somebody from doing it.
The backyard considered green space?
Yeah, if
There's
it's,
tons of that.
if there's, yeah,
Mayor Grimes?
Through you, probably possibly to Jared. Are we confident that the current parking space in front of the house is a conforming use?
illegal non-conforming use. I would have to double check that, but right now that's what's existing on the building. It's most likely legal non-compliant. It's been allowed there and he's allowed to use that. If it's not, and he wasn't allowed it at the time, that could become a zoning infraction.
So it may have been poured by a previous owner without the proper permits or approvals, potentially.
And as it was not challenged, we don't have the ability to go out and look at that.
Right.
If there is a complaint against Child Building Services can go out there, we can go out there, check zoning. And they would have to get a variance to get that width approved on the driveway.
We can make the decision.
If it's.
I was gonna ask if we could bring the bylaw up in the agenda, and deal with it now so they can all leave.
We certainly can if you wish to, yep.
Is that, I don't know. So I was gonna call a point of order, see if we can move the bylaw up to now, we can vote on it, and then you don't have to sit through pretty big agenda. If the rest of the council's.
I'm sure nobody would object to that. Okay.
So we should, if there are any more questions, you should.
Yeah, I'll close off with any more questions before we deal with it.
$17.2, Bev.
Okay. So is there a mover and a seconder? Seeing no one,
Technically, you have passed 3 times.
okay. Mover and a seconder, that's twice. Mover and a seconder, that's 3 times. It's done, thank you.
Thank you.
We're allowed to leave now?
You don't want to stay and hear the whole thing?
Oh, there's better things on TV.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Do you want to move up the
Thank you.
request for the exemption on the fence too?
Wait, are they here? Oh,
Just a couple in the front.
sorry.
No, it's fine.
Mayor Han,
Mhm.
to be consistent,
Yes,
can we do the other bylaw? Well,
certainly,
I guess we're here. Thank you.
certainly.
Not a bylaw, but an exemption
Oh,
request
yes,
under new business.
yes.
Okay, so let's go to
15.1.
Okay, we're going to do under new business exemption request to village bylaw, fence bylaw, sorry, for 906 Church Street. Do we need to provide any background?
I can, there was, we had a complaint filed against the property to have a 6-foot fence with a 1-foot lattice on top of it. So our property standards officer went out to look into it and instructed the owners of the property who are with us here this afternoon to submit a letter seeking an exemption to the bylaw. So that's what we're going through here today. We've, as council is quite aware, we've had a recent issue similar to this. And I know we had discussion about changing the bylaw. There's nothing in the minutes for that meeting, and that meeting is one of the ones that got lost when our Facebook page got decommissioned. So we weren't able to go back and look at the minutes. I don't recall what, I know we talked a lot about changing the bylaw to allow a foot of lattice on top of the fence, but I don't recall what the final decision was. So that's why we've brought this exemption request to council.
Councilor Burgess.
I'd like to just move forward and move to grant the exception.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
There you go.
It's done, thank you. Sorry for the confusion, apparently. That we,
Can I make a comment? Can we make sure that we update our bylaw to include that we allow lattice on the top, that way this won't come back again?
I think that would be a reasonable direction to provide
For the lattice, I think,
to
I
us.
believe that's what you have.
Yes, that's right.
The bylaw hasn't been updated since '94.
So we'll put that down as direction provided by council to
I think,
amend the bylaw.
and if I may, I think the direction should be to do a fulsome review of the bylaw rather than just that.
yeah, it's not
lattice.
one item,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's
Do we do a
like-
full review and some comparative studies?
Sure.
You're gonna spend time on it, so.
Okay, Thank you.
Okay,
So will we receive an exemption letter or something? Or it just
I
goes in?
can send you something if you like, that's fine.
or we verbally just gave it.
That's
Yeah.
great, thank you.
The bylaw officer will be informed.
Oh, actually, it'll be in these minutes too,
Okay.
the published
yeah, so I
minutes
can print them.
of what happened. So you'll
Thank
be
you.
covered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You two are welcome to stay if you wish.
Okay, come on, get your business done.
Said no for
Thank you
pizza.
so much.
Yeah. So, the next item is adoption of minutes.
So moved.
Council, so from July 23rd.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions on those minutes? All in favor? Thank you. The next one is business arising from the minutes, and it's Sarnia Transit ridership survey. The village will be conducting a brief survey of village transit users. Staff are asking if there should be any further questions added to the survey before sending out the link. Copy of the current 2-question survey is included in the attachments. You want to,
So, yeah, if I may, I did reach out to Sarnia Transit because they talked about coming and I reached out to them, and just didn't, I have reached out to them the Thursday before last week, so almost 2 weeks ago, and I just never heard back to them, so I will reach out to them again to see if they have any ideas of things we should add to the survey as well. But so far, as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's would a change to 40 minutes affect you personally? And would you like to have the option of going to Blue Water Health and Bayside Mall? Would that
does it say
help you?
from the current 30?
Yep.
Just to be clear, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So if there are other, that's really all today is about, is if there are other questions you feel we should ask.
Can I just clarify something for the other counselors? I think the questions kind of confuse the idea of moving to a 40-minute route. So I did get some clarification on that at our last transit advisory meeting, and it's so our current route is a 30-minute route. It takes 30 minutes to do the loop, and then it ends at Northgate Terminal. And then for the next 30 minutes, that bus is used for something else. And then in 30 more minutes, that route goes again. Moving to a 40-minute route won't change the length of the route. It just shifts it to meet up with the rest of the buses. So it's still going to take the same amount of time to do the loop of the stops. And then they would just use that bus for something else for 20 minutes instead of for 30 or not at all, depending on the changes that are made. It also would not, this is something that we talked about last time, it wouldn't change the stops that occur in Point Edward. The only change to the stops on the route would be, it would go like down to Bayside Terminal and then up past the hospital and then back to the rest of the village loop. So it would no longer, the hub wouldn't be at Northgate Terminal, it would be at Bayside Terminal with the rest of the buses, which would allow for any of our riders to catch another bus without having to take multiple buses to get to where they want to go. They can just get off the Point Edward bus and go where they need to go. Or if it's the hospital or somewhere on that new little Sarnia portion of the route, then they just wouldn't have to take another bus. At least the first question really makes it seem like the route time is going to be longer. Like they're going to have to run a bus for a longer amount of time. When you look at the current route, the only thing that could possibly be impacted and take longer by maybe 5 minutes would be if someone wanted to go from where they get on in Point Edward to Northgate Plaza, because now they would have to get on the number 9 bus to go to the plaza, which takes about 5 minutes from downtown. Anything else is going to be faster. That's a lot of information to put into a simple question. And they also said that they would be able to help us formulate the questions if we wanted. Or collaborate on that, because they recently made these changes across the board, changing everything from the 30-minute route to the 40-minute route. And people were confused about what that would mean as well.
So maybe a lot of this information goes out, not in the form of a question, but in like some verbiage that says this is what this really means.
Mhm.
And I'm sure Sarnia Transit will help put that together.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that what they just did was, with all the other stops and what they would do with this is they would, on the current bus stops, they would put the time that the bus would be coming by that stop. So it might be a slight shift from what they're used to. They usually get on the bus on the hour, they might be getting on it after the hour, something along those lines, and it would be labeled right on each bus stop to help with that transition as well. So that's just kind of a little piece of how they will help with that transition.
Deputy Mayor Grimes?
Thank you. So the question, to help protect the integrity of the survey, I think we need to provide more information because I would not be able to answer that because I don't know what the difference is between a 30-minute route and a 40-minute route. And the only thing, so I think we need to take a lot of what Councilor Knocker said, put that as the background or introduction that Sarnia Transit or proposed, blah, blah, blah. The impact or non-impact it would have, put a bit of a summary document and say, would you support this proposal as above? But I think we need a lot more information in the question because I think people either A, won't answer it because they don't understand it, or B, will answer it not knowing what they're really answering. And then secondly, if we're going to go to a survey, then I think we need to throw some more questions in there just for data collection. So one is, we've talked, we only have so much money to spend on transit, I get it. But would evening service or an extended service during the week benefit a resident here? Would Sunday service be a benefit? It would be nice to know if 38 people said, yes, I kill for Sunday service, then maybe we need to rethink that. So if we're going to go to the public, I think throwing those types of questions in, so extended, and then Sundays, and then
Evenings.
evenings, and then also expand on the first question. And then I think we might as well add a question that's a free form field at the end. So do you have any other comments about Point Edward's delivery of transit service to residents, and allow them to just give us their verbiage? And then, because there might be things we're missing that aren't locked down to a particular question. So that's my recommendations for it. And then did Sarnia Transit not say that they would be able to somehow hand this out on the route? So we would do printed copies for people to give back to the driver, right?
Yes. So what we'll do, because I mean, this is going to be time sensitive. I don't know if we want to wait until the next meeting to start, because if they're going to do it, let's say let's do it at the start of the year. So I can reach out and try and get a hold of them and get some things put together, send it out for approval, and then go live with it. So, and we'll advertise it, like we'll put it on our Facebook page, we'll send it a constant contact notice to everybody. It's a little bit, when you do that, you put it on Facebook, I mean, anybody can answer the survey and we have no idea who they are, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit.
And that might be worth adding. You can add name and email and phone as an optional field so that they can add it if they want.
Or do you want their residency?
Yep, that's another good
Right.
question is, do you live in the village or do you
Yeah.
live in Sarnia?
Yeah.
Because, and then you can see how many respondents are from the village.
Yeah.
And make that a mandatory response
Yeah.
where they live. Whenever Sarnia or other.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Financial reports. General operations for July.
I'll move that the total revenue and general operations for the month of July 2024 in the amount of $109,650.75 be approved. And that the total expenditures in general operations for the month of July 2024 in the amount of $375,858.45 be approved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? David? Environmental services.
I will move that the total revenues and environmental services for the month of July twenty twenty-four in the amount of $193,493.39 be approved. And that the total expenditures in environmental services for the month of July twenty twenty-four in the amount of $208,233.92 be approved. And that the updated financial statements for the month of June twenty twenty-four showing revenues of $271,287.65 and expenditures of $151,808 be received and filed.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. General operations financial statements, August 2024.
Move that the total revenues and general operations for the month of August twenty twenty-four in the amount of $44,937.52 be approved. And that the total expenditures in general operations for the month of August twenty twenty-four in the amount of $648,142.04 be approved.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Environmental services, August.
I will move that the total revenue and, oh, wrong one. No. Yeah, this is general operations. When I click on environmental services. Yeah,
Mine says general operations. Yeah.
is that, it should be that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Mhm. I will move that the total revenues in general.
One's July, one's August. One's July, one's August. Counselor.
The total revenues in general operations for the month of August twenty twenty-four in the amount of $0 be approved, and that the total expenditures in general operations for the month of August 2024.
It should be environmental.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
But everything else is
Everything
correct.
else is good.
Yeah,
It's just that.
it's the first word.
Okay.
I will move that the total revenues in environmental services for the month of August twenty twenty-four in the amount of $0 be approved. And that the total expenditure in environmental services for the month of August twenty twenty-four in the amount of $142,815.29 be approved. And that the financial statements for the month of July twenty twenty-four showing revenues of $193,492.39 and expenditures of $208,233.92 be received and filed.
I'll second that.
Questions? All in favor? Carried. Move on to committee reports. First one's operations of September the 10th.
I'll move that the minutes of the operations meeting held September 10th be approved as circulated.
Something that.
If I could, I can make some comments.
Yeah.
We were talking about preschool skate, and it's going to be added to Thursdays from 1 to 2. And they were looking into also some free skate time at Christmas break.
And that's scheduled.
That's scheduled now.
December 28th, 24th, sorry. Yeah, Derek came back and he had found a slot. I'll confirm it,
Okay,
but it's
booked.
it's booked.
Okay, great, thank you. We also had a discussion regarding garbage bag limits. There's an issue with landfill's capacity to handle garbage in the future. There's 11 to 14 years left of space to put garbage. So the question was asked if Marcotte has the capability to calculate the average number of bags that most homes put out on a garbage day. And it was also suggested that the village create a survey on its website for subscribers to give feedback on the number of garbage bags they dispose of and what they think about the village if we reduce the number of garbage bags to a 3-bag limit. Also, there's been work done by the operations manager on a second food truck location. Won't go into all the details there, but that's moving forward. We also had a discussion on the development of a future recreation master plan. And also the operations manager provided an update on arena advertising pricing. We received data from the operations manager on the speed spy.
And it was suggested that these reports for Michigan Avenue Front Street be shared with MIG, our engineering firm, and the OPP. Also, some asphalt repairs. There were some inspections to be done on different areas that require repair. And also, where there was a discussion around live barn for the Point Edward Memorial Arena, and it's a streaming service that is offered with subscriptions, and there's also attached an agreement because there was a recommendation made that this be referred to council. So the live barn agreement was sent to us yesterday from Operations Manager Mike Nastoli. And we're going to, there's a motion. You want me to make that motion? Right now?
We already have a motion out.
Oh,
Accept
that's
the minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, because it was referred to council, there needs to be a separate motion to
Right.
implement live barn.
So we should do that after the minutes are
We'll do that.
approved, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I see.
Only one motion.
Yeah.
So that is all I've got on the minutes.
Okay, Tim, to confirm, the holiday skate is September 28th,
December 28th.
December 28th from 12:30 to 2.
Okay.
And just for information, I just read yesterday, just because you were talking about bag limits, the city of Ottawa just went from 6 to 3.
And that's every 2 weeks.
Pardon? Well, I'm noting Ottawa as the capital city large. They just went from 6 to 3 in one move.
That's every 2 weeks.
I don't
They have
remember
pickup
that.
every 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah. I
Can't
had that
confirm that.
article. So that's.
Deputy Mayor Grimes?
I have a couple questions related to the minutes and then a couple that weren't captured in it. The food truck proposal, do we still need to move that forward now that they've located on the bridge property?
So they've indicated to us that they would prefer to be on our property. We don't have to. Mike is still working on getting final pricing to do it, and we'll have to come back to Councillor Mondu said we're going forward with gathering the information,
Okay.
not moving forward with the work
Okay.
until it gets final approval from
And then
council.
we would make sure there's a contract signed before we would start any of that work, right?
Yeah, that's probably a reasonable, yeah.
Okay. I noted in the minutes we were to get information on heat pumps for this office. Is that gonna come later?
It's done deal.
We are going to heat pumps?
Yes, yeah, it is a bit more money, but I thought I sent it out too.
I didn't see. anything.
Okay, we authorized to go ahead with that. The day of those meetings are, now our operations manager got the air conditioning working, but it failed that day.
Mhm.
So I'm like, we're just going ahead and getting this done, but yeah, we can send out, it's about
Do we cancel that?
7,000 over budget. Less than about 4.
Okay.
So we figured with the efficiencies that it's, we'll get that money back fairly quickly.
And then there's two items, their operations, so I'll bring them up now, but I was gonna bring up new business, but one is regard to the pavement markings or line painting, as Mike go through you to Mike, is and I've been asking about this in spring, is the upgrading of crosswalks to the step ladder standard and the completion of the Michigan Avenue line painting. So the city did the lines parallel to the curb, but typically we close off the ends of the boxes so that it doesn't look like a 4-lane road. And I mentioned it to Jim and said that there were other priorities, but it seems to me that completing those lines to keep people from using it as a 4-lane would be a priority to me. So are we able to finish that up?
I've spoken to through the mayor, I've spoken to our staff at Public Works. They did recently repair the line painting machine that we had and completed a number of areas that were a priority. I can certainly speak to them to look into that.
Okay. But as I said to the CAO, to me, those lines on Michigan are a higher priority than the lines in the church parking lot that we did, right? So from a road safety standpoint, it seems to me that we should be closing those off. And then the big crosswalk that I'm concerned about is the one on Venetian. So it is a light controlled crosswalk on a busy road with high speeds, and we almost have no line markings there whatsoever. And the crosswalks around the school. I think they should be prioritized as far as getting the step ladder, proper stop lines and all that stuff. So I just hope we can try and do something before fall. Otherwise, we're gonna have another 6 or 8 months with, and I worry about the liability and the safety, right? Without the proper markings on this.
It is fall.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Oh,
said
yeah.
before fall.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it happened.
And then my other one was this has been hanging around for about a year. I hope we can get it moved forward is the street signs. We've got a number of street signs in the village that have faded from the sun and they're like a robin's egg blue rather than our nice blue. The big one is at Venetian and Alexandra, busy intersection people see. It's almost faded to the, you can't read it. So, and I think last year we talked about doing a bit of a tour or an audit, having somebody drive around, look, identify signs. I heard we have spares somewhere in Public Works for some of the signs. So all I'm looking at is it all goes back to our image, and that sign down there is not only is it crooked, it's faded to the point where it's hardly readable. So if we can move that one forward, I say I brought it up. I think it's been almost a year I've been bringing it up. So that's all I have in operations.
Move on to fire.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, didn't do the vote. All in favor. Thank you.
Oh, sure, live barn.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, you want to do that now? Okay.
I'll move that staff be authorized to enter an agreement with Live Barn for the division of live streaming services for the Toyota Memorial Arena for a period of 6 years.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Questions?
I have a question. It's not in the report, but I did talk to the CEO about it, but did you or Derek speak to Pima about their engagement on this? That's our hockey association.
Mayor, I have not spoken to FEMA, but I can certainly confirm whether Derek has.
Okay. I did speak to their president just on the side, and she said they are enthused about it and I've been wanting it for years, but I just think we should make sure we engage them as part of the process. They're the ones that will generate the most content for this feed.
I agree. Again, through the mayor, between the Hockey Association as well as the Lacrosse Association,
Yes.
so we'll generate a bit of.
Okay. Yes, yep, okay. Thank you.
I think they've already played in front of Live Barn multiple times.
Yes.
Over the last few years.
In other
Almost
facilities.
every rink that kids play at, so
Yep.
it won't be something new.
I thought that's where the idea generated from, actually. From Pima.
I think they might have cold called this Live Barn. Did they cold call us or did Pima bring it?
I contacted.
Oh, you contacted. So it might have even been.
We had contact a few years
Yeah.
ago too,
And it went
during COVID, when people couldn't come in to have some sort of streaming service, but they ended up doing something else on their own.
Yeah.
All in favor then? Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Now, fire committee,
So I will move that the minutes of the fire committee meeting held on September the 10th, 2024 be approved as circulated.
I'll second.
And just some quick highlights. We are once again trying to get some emergency grant applications, and there is a grant application that focuses on cancer prevention. So we will be looking at submitting requests for that. We're going to do some officer training in Brigden at the end of the month, which will be good for some of our new upcoming officers. The chief expressed concerns about some fires being lit in bizarre places. One was in the parking lot underneath the waterfront park, and others throughout that area. So we are discussing putting up more signage, reminding people about you can't have open fires in our parks. And we will be circulating the open air burn bylaw through the police service board agenda so that the officers in the village are fully aware of the requirements of the open burn bylaw, just to make sure, because they are the ones that are being called upon more often to enforce it. So that's all. Marianne. Oh, and the open house for Fire Prevention Week is October 7th, the 7th, from 6 till 8. All you can eat hot dogs, be sure to come on out. That's Monday the 7th, right? Yep.
Did you say 7? I thought it was at 6.
No, the
Oh,
7th.
time, I don't know.
6
Oh.
till 8.
7.
Oh, okay, the 7th
Yes.
at 6. Okay. Thank you. Then all in favor?
Yep. Why not?
Yeah, I lost her. Okay, environmental services, September 10th.
I'll move that the minutes of the Environmental Services Committee meeting for September 10th, 2024 be approved as circulated.
I'll second that.
In terms of updates, the storm sewer repair for Michigan Ave was awarded. So hopefully that repair will be done this year.
Like the engineering work was awarded.
Yes. That's it.
Deputy Mayor Grant.
Quick questions regarding the engineering for stormwater repair. Are they doing the engineering for the crosswalk stuff as well? Are we, so they're
Yep,
gonna do that?
everything that was included in the paradigm report at the intersection of Livingston and Michigan.
Will be done at the same time
Yep.
as that repair.
Yep.
Wonderful. Happy to hear that. And then my other question is the status of the new building. So a resident mentioned to me the other day that, the design is complete. It's all been approved and the pads being poured next month. I hope that's not true, is it?
Wow, they know more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So that's not, because it's to come back to council, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Haven't seen anything.
I know. Just double checking. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, all in favor? Yep. And last but not least, Council Burgess, Finance.
I move that the committee meeting minutes of September 10th for the Finance Committee be approved as circulated.
I'll second that.
Our one big highlight was our best wishes to our retiring treasurer, Tina. We have kind words about her on her last day working with us.
I don't know why we waited till the last day to say nice things about her, but okay, it goes.
And we threw her a party.
Yeah, that
The
too.
next day, but not
Yeah.
during the meeting.
Yeah, yeah, not at
Waited
work.
till after hours.
Yeah, we wait, yeah.
If you stay 23 years, Jane, we'll have a party for you.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And then miscellaneous reports.
With, item number 1.
Second that.
All in favor? Police service.
I'll move item number 2, police services board meeting from May 30th.
I'll second. And the next one, upcoming village events. We just talked about the open house.
Was that what this is?
I don't know. I just.
Well, I'd asked that as part of the finance because,
Oh, okay.
our Shelley Archer always has different events that she's working on, and I think they should be mentioned at the meetings, because sometimes we talk about them at committee. But as it gets later in the
Yeah,
month,
okay.
sometimes it's worth mentioning again.
Yeah, no problem. I thought that's what you meant. And then, Christmas in the village,
December 7th,
whoa, another 7, December 7th,
11 to 3.
11 to 3.
And it doesn't have to be specific to her events that.
No,
she's
anything we might be
navigating, but,
interested in, like,
But isn't that already in our agenda as number 16? I'm just confused why it's,
You know,
that's why I assumed this was something different.
I think my original idea was to add it to the finance committee.
okay.
Okay.
While we go through all the numbers, but it's also part of the office. And
Yeah. okay,
if she has something on the go, so it might be a little out of place here, because I know we do have community events.
Yeah.
Just new business is where it would, yeah. Yeah,
Or this should actually be part of the
We can
finance
move this,
committee
yeah.
agenda, and then it would be brought forward.
we can make that change, put it on the finance agenda.
The one that Paul's talking about?
Because yeah, it is pretty much the same thing. Number 16 is the same as this. Yeah, we'll move it back over to finance.
communications receive and file 1 through,
I'll move that, items 1 through 9 on communication,
Yes.
receive and file.
thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? And then, St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority,
I'll move that the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority report on the installation of flow meters be received and filed.
I'll second.
And that's just an update on the Conservation Authority received some funding as part of the Community Emergency Preparedness Grant, which we applied for, got turned down.
Mhm.
But it's just, I just want to show that some money is being spent
Yeah.
locally from that grant. And this will help gather data into a cloud platform to better share flooding projections and flooding information. They're adopting new technology that uses wireless transmission and real-time reporting. So
Sorry, excuse me. Okay, all in favor? And the last one, MOECP Annual Inspection Report for our drinking water system.
I'll move. Item 11.
I'll second. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Let me try to catch up because we went over there.
52.
I'm not sure, like, I'm sorry, this one, you came in, we took some things out of order and did them already, so if you were here specifically for the earlier items, Victoria Street,
Yes,
it's done,
okay.
and it was, declined. Denied, sorry. Sorry, I just thought we, because everybody was here and then they could hear it, we made a decision and then they left.
Okay.
So, but you're welcome to stay. I just figured you were here for probably one of those items. Okay, so move on to number 2, budget direction.
So I'm just moving I think we all know that there are some unusual costs related to the St. Clair Light Street project and more that could be forthcoming. And even though I know we're going to debenture and funding for this project, I think we're going to be spending more money than we want. I know there's the potential to recover funds from a performance bond to help us through this, but as we've been told, that may take years before so I'm just looking to send a message or to set up a procedure where we are keeping our finances in order. So number 1 is that we suspend our capital spending that hasn't been started or that's well underway for 2024, and that finance and admin get a report on what's being deferred. And then if something that's being deferred is very important, then the staff could make a case to council or to the committee to move it ahead. And then we just try and find ways to reduce our overall operating costs. And hopefully this heat pump will be one step towards that, get the heat and air heating costs down. And that the 2025 budget, that staff just be made aware that there's not a lot of value in coming at us with a 15 or 12 or 9% increase, and that we do the due diligence moving into budget and it comes at us, and it's may have to identify some things that have to get moved out a year or two. So I'm looking for that as a direction to move forward. And I'm open to any modification or any alterations to these ideas.
Who wants to go first? Any questions?
Well, I just go on here. As far as putting a hold on capital, like, we don't know what the issue is now. It's a big question mark. So is there a way to get some costing or whatever on what we're spending so that we know if there is an issue or not? Like, we think there's an issue, but we don't have anything concrete to understand how big, how small.
There'll be information when we go in camera about that.
Okay. Well, thank you. So right now, we're unaware.
Right.
Okay.
And that leads into my next item that I'm asking for is I think what we're getting in the camera section is more information flowing to council on our situation, on what our costs are, what our overruns are and all that stuff, so that we can help make these decisions. So.
I hear what you're saying. I kind of feel like we're on top of stuff as a group. We're a small group. We have responsible managers. If we've already budgeted, and I don't know if this is something specific that we'll talk about more in camera, but if we've already budgeted capital items, I think we've picked through that at budget time and found them all to be absolutely necessary. Because we did cut through on a lot of stuff last year. I just don't want to see something kind of get left out that is really necessary. And if it was debatable, I know we could debate it without specifically going into, you know, like a umbrella sort of to catch all.
And related to that, it's now October, our capital budget. Any projects may have made commitments. I don't want to renege on commitments that have been made to vendors or whatever. It may be too far down the road.
Well, that wasn't the intent. It says anything that hasn't, like in most places you issue a purchase order. Usually at this stage, you say if a purchase order hasn't been cut, then you don't move forward with it. So that's sort of using that premise. If there's something that, you know, if we were looking to buy a couple of lawnmowers, for example, the question can go forward, can we wait and do them next year, is what I'm saying. If it hasn't been bought yet, usually it doesn't mean it's as big a priority as it was, or there's been problems. So, and then the managers would say, yeah, I can hold off on that for a year or whatever. So I think we are going to be dipping into our reserves. So we approved it based on us having this amount of reserves. We know we're going to be spending more on this project than what we budget on the project overall. So are there other areas we can help with that?
I know you're not talking specifically about lawnmowers.
No,
but
no.
At this point.
Yeah.
If we didn't buy a lawnmower, I think the judgment would be that we could do without the lawnmower since we're at the end of lawn cutting season. But I hear, like I said, I hear what you're
wait till the
saying.
next budget years, honestly.
But I have gathered pretty good faith that, you know, we don't go too far on a wish list in a year like this. And it was very similar to what we went through during COVID, where we kind of had everybody and said, hey, like, it's gonna be tight. What can we live without?
So the capital spending will, I think we're, as Mayor Hanson, we're well underway, so we could drop that. I think more of the direction for 2025 is that that's going to be our tight year potentially. And the managers understand that, you know, it's not the year to go. Again, I know everyone brings forward a reasonable budget, but I'm just trying to prepare for the what if. And very well, we may manage this beautifully and come out with a big bag of money at the end of the rainbow, but there is the potential for additional costs.
Well, it's like I say to everybody too, we're taxpayers.
Yeah.
So we don't wanna, you know, get it out of range either, because we gotta cut that check like everybody else does and pay our taxes 3 times a year.
I would second this from operational efficiency down.
I have a concern with operational efficiency. I think our managers are capable of deciding on, I don't feel like they should have to go to CAO to approve overtime. I think that's just not what I would like to see. If they have the instruction that we're in tight times and we need to conserve money, then they're going to act accordingly and not have to take the time to contact the CAO and explain, why do I need this overtime? We trust that they're putting overtime into place because of the necessity.
And we do review this on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I think
For every department.
that
so-
this just meant specific instances, but we do.
No, that's not what I was inferring. Each instance would be prior approval. It's just asking that it be even more closely monitored than it is now. That, again, just back to, let's stay right on top of it for the next 6 or 8 months. But if you feel it's being well managed, then we can drop that as well.
No, it's about the message will be out there, and then we trust that our people will follow. Again, you bring up COVID. We went through this at COVID, and you know what the message was, and when we lost our casino revenue and how we had to work our way through that. So.
And also just managers are in the room, so they're hearing this as well, and I think they're, you know, they know they know how to do their job and how to manage the expenses and everything, so. I think they're very well aware of what we're up against.
So the motion's been amended, no capital spending hold, and then it's been seconded with operational efficiency in the 2025 budget. So
I'm still missing, it says the CAO is accountable for and approve all overtime.
So Greg's making this, well. Sorry, Deputy Mayor
Yeah.
Grimes.
Okay.
You know, for this motion, Councillor Knocker said she would second from here these two items.
Okay.
I guess the first question that should be asked is Deputy Mayor Grimes okay with that amendment? And then you call over, right,
Which amendment though?
to remove the first paragraph.
Okay.
That's,
Unless Deputy Mayor Grimes wanted to amend it further.
we were just talking about the operational efficiency one,
Mhm.
because the first paragraph is only one paragraph.
right, so your motion is basically 3 paragraphs. Councillor Knocker is saying she would second the second 2 paragraphs and remove the third one. So,
Remove
or remove the first one, right? Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Are you still willing to move just the 2? And then is there any other amendments you'd like to make to the motion? Anyone in council? And you call a vote on the second 2
So on
paragraphs.
the second paragraph then, I think from Mayor Hand's comments are that we take out approve all overtime expenses and just say, make an effort to keep operating expenses at or below budget. It's not as in the weeds or
Yeah.
as a micro,
Prescriptive.
right?
Yeah.
So that the CAO director also has to make every effort to reduce operating costs. And that every effort be made to keep operating expenses at or below budget for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay with you, seconded? Okay.
Okay, so you got a mover and a seconder.
Lack of amendments.
Fairly simple though.
Yeah. And again, as Councilor Mondood said, it's more just sending a message and making sure everybody knows that we're all in this together and that we're gonna address the financial impact and we're on top of it, right? By doing this, we're showing that.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor? Opposed?
Okay,
And the next one was just, I think we're dealing with this in camera,
In
but
camera.
I was just looking to improve the reporting monthly on the expenses related to the project, and I think that's already been dealt with. So I can withdraw this one, and we'll just capture it as part of our,
In camera.
is that?
I think that makes sense, yeah.
I just believe that out of it.
No, don't delete it, leave it there and I'll figure out how we're gonna address it tomorrow, but.
You just officially go in camera, so easy to do.
We're not quite
yet.
there
The
yet.
bylaws first.
Got a couple of more minutes of stuff to deal with.
You know,
Actually, we
we'll
already
give you
did one of those.
we'll give you the sign.
We already did one of them.
We just have 21.
Yeah,
And I think we've addressed all the community events. in
we didn't do
60.
the tax collector one.
No,
No, that's 21.
17-1.
I think that's what he means by law.
Bylaw 21.
Oh, I'm
is what I was
so-
saying.
I'm reading the
Sorry,
17.
it's different.
Oh, that's garbage. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Bylaw number 21.
I'll move bylaw 21 being a bylaw to appoint a treasurer, tax collector for the village of Point Edward. Be read a first, second, and third, and finally passed this 24th day of September 2024.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
So we start paying her as of today? Okay. That worked out good.
Okay, and number 2, we already did, that was about the zoning bylaw. We just took it out of order.
No.
Number 22. Okay, so now we are going to adjourn to in camera. Thank you for attending.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Welcome back, Cam.
Yeah,
Thank you
Good
very
to have you
much.
back.
yeah.
At whatever time it
Well,
is, 6:49.
I'll second.